Don't watch this if spoilers are a bane of your existence, because I spoil. Now, I have scribbled this review on several pages of paper right after the episode has ended. I was under a strong impression after the events that unfolded in the last night's episode of Game of Thrones, so I won't even pretend to have memorized anything that I have written here, so I'm gonna read it and you can pretend that I'm actually looking at the screen and talking to you. I am not an expert of Ice and Fire, nor am I a diehard fan, but I am not gonna lie, the last couple of weeks have been riddled with frustration for me. I could talk about the massacre at King's Landing, I could talk about why each of the 5 major deaths felt underwhelming. I can talk about Tyrion and why he's still on a slippery slope of sliding further away from the character he used to be. I could argue with myself how Jon's irrational infatuation with Daenerys makes no sense, because he has shown more foresight and discipline in countless tempting situations before, while it also makes sense actually, because it's the hallmark of a classic Stark mistake, that he woefully commits to something and sticks to it no matter what, with tragic zeal. But everyone has said pretty much everything about this and more, so I'll try to approach it from a different perspective and acknowledge that this, as well, is probably not an original take. Reddit is a vast and deep dark ocean is all I'm saying. So I'll try to apply a holistic approach to the issue. The promise of the show: a solid setup in a detailed world, puts characters into beginning positions, and then George R.R. Martin decides that the prudent narrative doctrine is to let characters drive the plot by making grounded and humanly relatable decisions. By relinquishing himself of rigorous character control and letting the story evolve with their decisions and involvement, the writer graces us with seemingly living, breathing characters, and this makes their journey even more gripping. Of course, and this is an addendum to the previous spiel, rarely any writer will let the character run the show and sabotage the thematic whole. Martin nudges his characters with several large-scale world movements, such as the coming of the winter, but the essence of the promise remains the same. And the essence of the promise is: characters drive plot. Execution of that promise falters because the second half of the show, meaning seasons 5 to 8, abandon this promise and invert it. Now, the plot drives characters, so they become lifeless tools of the narrative. They develop as narrative demands, which means that they are allowed to contradict the nature of their previously established personalities. Even when you are blindsided with dramatic events, you naturally intuit when this inversion happens, and you feel it as a pebble in your shoe. The name of that pebble is inconsistency. If we are to simplify matters completely, this is the heart of what frustrates us about the show right now. It's in Dany's forced descent into madness, it's in Jaime's jarring denunciation of his own character arc, it's in Arya's pointless meandering through the episode and the city, and Cersei's, well, it's in Cersei's dead end. That doesn't mean that it is a completely wrong practice to compose a story where all characters are tools of the larger plot, though there are many writers who will claim that it is. Stephen King comes to mind. But I feel that you should do it from ground up and conceive it this way in its entirety. Also, I don't think that it works for longer narrative forms such as TV shows or serialized books. The problem, and this is really nothing but my own take on the matter, arises when the internal narrative logic, the cogs behind the curtain that drive the entire thing forward, changes midway through. It's promise versus execution in terms of something deeper than plot exposition. The nature of the story is betrayed, and these characters simply make no sense anymore. God damn it, I feel like a communist politician. David Benioff and D.B. Weiss have taken threads of George R.R. Martin's story, the ones which he had left dangling with the fifth book, and the broad knots of the ending, which Martin has probably provided as well. So, for the last 5 years, the two screenwriters are which is your right? Okay, that's your right. So they are trying to connect these dangling threads from the last pages of the last book with the ending knots, and just for the last 5 years they're pulling on both sides in order to reconnect them. Therefore, character motivation is not organic. It is enforced in order to reach the present ending. Their goals are essentially not a part of the story. Their motivations have broken through the veil of the story and essentially become meta goals for a meta narrative, played out by the gods in shape of two writers who are just desperately trying to make ends meet. Many people complain that characters have become hollow, and this is actually a perfect word for it, because there is nothing there but function. Character motivation is replaced by David Benioff and D.B. Weiss's own motivations to finally bring everything to a close and drown themselves in the everlasting darkness of the last end credits. You know, who knows, the final episode might be worthwhile. I mean, even over the last couple of weeks, the show is not exactly wasting your time. It looks gorgeous, production design is amazing, the acting is on point, and the spectacle can be genuine. No matter how you look at it, this episode must have been a hard watch for all the parents around the globe that named their daughters Khaleesi. There may be a lesson somewhere in there. What the fuck are you waiting?